Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over the severe weather which is currently taking part over eastern Ohio and possibly crossing into western Pennsylvania. That'll eventually move into the rest of the Northeast later today, and we'll be covering that in more detail in today's video. We're going to be again timing this out for you guys, showing you how much rainfall you should be expecting, and then also talking about the colder temperatures towards the end of today's video. So before we get into it, I just want to say that today we do have a poll out on the channel. So if you go to my YouTube channel, and then I believe if you go to the community tab, that's where all the polls are. So I put these out probably once every 3 or 4 weeks. I'll put one out. Today's the first day of fall, so I put one out for what your favorite part of fall is. So just let me know in this poll. It's just a fun poll, and if you want to take part in it, you just leave your answer right there. I'm a little bit surprised at how little people are picking Thanksgiving. That would definitely be my pick, but I guess a lot of people do like the colder weather and the fall foliage, and of course also sports. That's definitely one of the things that gets me excited for fall as well. So if you want to go answer that poll question, again, it's on my YouTube channel. I believe it's on the community tab when you click on my channel. So there's no notifications when these things get posted out. So it's only when you happen to scroll past it on YouTube. So it can be a little bit hard to find sometimes. If you look at the current National Weather Service page, you can see that we do have quite a few watches and warnings, especially in the eastern half of the country. We'll start off in the west. We have some heat advisories in Southern California with some red flag warnings in southern Wyoming. We also have some frost advisories in parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we are going to be dealing with some temperatures getting in and around 37 and 38 degrees within that area. And if we have a little bit of radiational cooling, if we have some clearer skies, then definitely we could see a few areas get closer to 33 or 34 degrees. We also have some wind advisories in parts of southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and western Kentucky. It's just one office station in this area that there's just one office that covers that entire area, and it seems like that area is always under a wind advisory for some reason. I think their criteria is much lower than the surrounding weather offices. So if you don't know, each National Weather Service office covers a certain district or a certain area. So for example, there's one for coastal Texas. I'm not sure exactly where that covers, but it covers, let's say, this area right here. There would be another one that covers south central Texas, and so on, and that goes on throughout the entire country. And for some reason, this area right here, they always put up wind advisories, even for fairly minor events. So I'm not sure why they have those up. It seems like they have a much lower criteria than everyone else. We have some flood watches up in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, as well as for another area in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, Delaware, DC. I don't know if DC is actually in it, but it looks like it's right on the border with DC, and then also into New Jersey and New York, where we have that flood watch, and then we have a tornado watch in the yellow, which we're going to talk about in just one moment. Yesterday we had a high temperature of 107 degrees in Death Valley, California, and also in Brawley, California. So both of those areas got up to 107 degrees, and then Peterson's, Utah got all the way down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. That's in a higher elevation region. The highest rainfall report was in Savannah Hilton Head Regional Airport in Georgia, where they got 6.52 inches of rain, and that is located across southeastern Georgia. So right in this area is where that rainfall report was taken from. No snowfall reports yesterday, although with all this colder weather, I would not be surprised if we get a few more snowfall reports over the next couple of weeks that filter in. Here's a look at the current radar imagery, and you can see that we do have quite a lot going on. We saw some flooding rains in parts of Indiana and Michigan, especially last night. We have the severe storms into western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio. We're going to zoom in on that in just one moment, and then we also have more severe weather down into the Carolinas, maybe crossing over into a little bit of Virginia and Georgia as well. So starting off in Ohio and the surrounding areas, you can see that basically just along and east of I-77 in Ohio, we have some severe storms in those areas. So rather strong storms, and we do have the threat of tornadoes possibly developing. And one of the reasons is because of how kind of spread out these systems are. So we have one right here, we have another one here, we have another one here. It's not just one big line from north to south where you don't have any separation, no room to really form a tornado. You definitely have the ample room because you're dealing with little gaps in between each storm. So that is allowing and providing some space for potential tornadoes to form. I'm not sure, I don't think we actually had any so far, but there is definitely the threat of some if you live in eastern Ohio and also into western Pennsylvania. Also, if you live in northwestern West Virginia as well, you want to pay attention or at least just keep an eye on the radar for these severe storms. If you look at these storms down in the southeast, so that's going to be for southern Virginia to eastern Georgia, you can see these are a lot more scattered, but they are also fairly strong. We have a few lines of storms, mainly through East Georgia and upstate South Carolina, as well as into central North Carolina, just east of Charlotte. And then we have a few more storms in and along coastal South Carolina. So they're going to be a little bit more scattered here in the southeast with some more isolated storms. They're not going to be as widespread with the rainfall as it will be in, let's say, Ohio or Michigan. But the potency of the storm will probably be a little bit on the higher end. If we look at this tornado watch down in Ohio, this covers Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and northern West Virginia is where this covers, from basically Morganville all the way up to just east of Cleveland, and then to about Erie, Pennsylvania, and then all the way down to southwestern Pennsylvania. So that's kind of the area that this covers right now with that tornado watch. You can see we have a moderate risk of tornadoes, a low risk of EF2 plus tornadoes, moderate risk of severe wind, 75 mile per hour plus wind at a low risk, and hail at a very low risk as well. This is until 10 Eastern time today, according to the Storm Prediction Center, not the National Hurricane Center. And they could, of course, extend this. I don't think they will. If they do, it'll probably only be by 1 or 2 hours, because it looks like this will be out of here with the main threat by about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. We also have a mesoscale discussion, which is down into Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And by the way, all of this information is valid for about 4:15 p.m. Eastern time, which is when I'm recording this right now. You can see that we have the Cape kind of labeled here on the screen. So this is the convective available potential energy. You can see here's the line for 1,000 plus Cape, 1,500 plus Cape would be down here, 2,000 plus Cape would be down here. So you can see the areas of very high risk or higher risk because of the amount of energy in the atmosphere is within this zone right here. They're saying that a couple damaging wind gusts are possible this afternoon. A weather watch issuance is not expected right now. So they're not expecting to put up a watch for this. I would not say it's impossible. Here's the band of storms as of right now, and this was as of actually a few minutes ago. So this is not completely up to date with where that band is. It's a little bit further to the east right now, but either way, we do have a mesoscale discussion over that broad area in the Carolinas and Virginia. Here's a look at the day one outlook. You can see that we have a slight risk in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, with a 5% chance of tornadoes also within that same area, and we also have a 15% chance of wind damage. We have no chance, or a very small chance, of seeing hail within this entire area for today as well. So hail really not expected. Main threats are going to be tornadoes and also damaging winds, which may come across because of some of these severe storms. Here's a look at tomorrow with the severe weather risk. You can see that it shifts over to the northeast and mid-Atlantic, where we have that marginal risk of severe weather. You can see that we have a 2% chance of tornadoes within that area, and then we have a 5% chance of wind damage as well. So let's start timing this out. You can see that by 6 p.m. Eastern time today, we're expecting these storms to be fairly far to the east compared to where they are now. So right now, again, they're basically parallel or at the same longitude as Akron, Ohio, and Cleveland, Ohio, and they're going to continue to move on further northeast from there. So they're eventually going to be in western Pennsylvania, basically right over Pittsburgh by about 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight. You can see that it's still raining over this entire area for Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, up into Ontario, Canada. I know I have a few viewers from there, and one of them commented about this is the most rainfall they've seen, or that they've ever seen forecasted, and it looks like definitely they're getting their decent fair share of rainfall, because they've gotten at least a couple inches. I know they've gotten at least 3 or 4 inches so far, and we're assuming that you're going to probably get 1 or 2 extra inches at least, and there could of course be pockets that get a little bit more rainfall than that. So definitely a lot of rain into areas like Ontario, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and then all of this is going to scoot on further to the east. So you can see we have that line of severe weather which goes all the way down into the Carolinas. This severe weather up in Ohio is connected to the severe weather down in Georgia and South Carolina. So everything is basically connected with this storm. We have the big upper level system circulating around southern Ohio, and this will eventually be kind of moving somewhat like this. It's going to be a very weird moving system. It'll move northeast and then eventually loop back up to the north. A very interesting pattern here. But nonetheless, this is what is expected to happen. If you look at by 9 p.m., most of the storms are dying out. What you could still classify some thunderstorms would be over this line right here. This is going to be a weaker line of storms. So you're looking at this and you're seeing the oranges and the reds. And again, that's nothing really to freak out about. You might see a little bit of heavy rain for 5 or 10 minutes, maybe a little bit of thunder and lightning. But we're not expecting anything that would cause too big of an issue. Actually, what I'm more concerned about is not the thunderstorms. Of course, if there's a tornado, that would be a big deal. If that would be most likely, especially in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. But the second big bulletin point from this storm would be the flooding that's taken place, or that could take place over parts of Michigan, Indiana, Northwest Ohio, and Southern Ontario, because they have seen, again, a lot of rainfall. And even though none of the rainfall has been incredibly heavy, you haven't seen too many pockets of really heavy rainfall like you would in some of these thunderstorms. It's just been happening over the past 24 hours that you really haven't gotten a break from the rainfall, so that has caused some issues. It hasn't been an issue too much for some of these areas, but if you go into an urban area, I would assume that there's more issues with flooding, because there's less room for the water to kind of maneuver around. So that of course is always an issue with these rain events. Everything continues to move a little bit further to the east. This is again going to be a very slow moving storm. We're not going to see too much progress with this system at all. So this is by tomorrow morning, 3 a.m. and you can see that we have this line of semi-convective storms. Again, I'm not really too impressed with whatever the NAM is showing right now with the system in terms of the thunderstorms in parts of central Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia. I'm not really too impressed with this line of storms right here. You can see that it does move to the east. This is 6 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Again, this entire system is now starting to broaden out a little bit, and we talked about this in yesterday's video, but for those of you who didn't watch that one, again, the low pressure center went from being a very small, compact little storm down in southern Ohio to now being a much broader system, which is over Michigan, and it's again covering a much wider area. So before, we were looking at the extent of this being right here, and then the western extent probably somewhere right here. Well, now we're dealing with the western extent being all the way up here, and the southern and eastern extent being all the way over here. So it's a much wider system, and that means that the storm has to kind of extend itself so much that it'll eventually just break apart. So that's what we're going to see. It's extending itself so much, it's trying to do so much and cover such a wide area that it's eventually just going to break apart because it does not have enough energy to sustain that. So If we move this on to 12 p.m. Tomorrow, you can see you have a line of storms. Some people would classify that as a thunderstorm. I think it's mainly just going to be rain with pockets of heavier bits and pieces here and there, but I don't think it'll be anything that's going to be classified as too strong for tomorrow in these areas. Then we go to 3 p.m. and you can see every single frame here. I'll go back a little bit so you can see much more compact system at this point. It's basically from Indiana to central Pennsylvania, and then you can see on every single frame it's widening out, and that's again part of this storm weakening. So if we move this on to 3 p.m. again, you can see that line of storms again not impressing me too much. I don't think there's too much that's going to come out of that. You have a thin little line which is going to be moving across the western lakes, and that of course could cause some issues while you're driving on the roads, but it's nothing that's going to be too crazy. Mainly just a line of light to moderate rain, and then all of that pulls away further to the northeast. And that line of storms will move into Vermont, upstate New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine as we get into Friday. So Friday morning is when this should arrive within these areas, and then by Friday afternoon, by 6 p.m., this is what you're looking at right now on Friday. So you can see that it's a fairly slow moving storm. The storms were by this afternoon, they're in eastern Ohio, and by Friday afternoon, they're still barely getting across New Hampshire and Maine. So very, very slow moving system. Here's a look at the total expected rainfall still to come. So this is through Friday evening, and you can see this is the rainfall which is still expected to come. So this is all in inches. So for those of you who live in southern Ontario, you'll have to do the conversions over to millimeters or whatever measuring system you guys use. But we're looking at 1 to 2 inches in the yellow, 2 to 3 inches in the red, 3 to 4 inches in the brown, and then 4 to 6 inches in the purplish color, which an example of that would be up in northeastern Indiana. You can see that popping up. So you can see that we do have some pockets where you're going to have the heavier rain. So that's going to be from Indiana and Ohio through Michigan and into parts of Ontario. And then you have another couple of pockets of heavy rain, which is going to be one for the northeast, and then another one in some isolated spots of the Carolinas, where wherever the storms set up, wherever you get a heavy line of storms, is where you'll get the most amount of rainfall. We're looking at a general 2 to 4 inches with this event. If you live in this area or in this area, you get a little bit of a break in between where you're looking at maybe just 1 to 2 inches. Either way, it looks like we will be getting rainfall, but hopefully none of it is too much. Hopefully we're not dealing with any flooding out of this rainfall. Here's a look at the amount of energy that we have in the atmosphere for this afternoon. It's not a ton, but I think it is enough to cause some issues, especially considering that you do have a big temperature gradient along western Ohio compared to eastern Ohio. So there is some amount of PreEnergy where we already have some of that because of the temperature gradient. You have temperatures going from the 70s and the even the low 80s in a few of these spots into the 60s and even the 50s. So there is some difference in the temperatures definitely over that area. If you look at the high temperatures for today, you can see what I was talking about. We're dealing with high 70s into eastern Ohio, and then mid to low 50s in western Ohio. So that temperature gradient is going to cause some instability in the atmosphere, so you don't need as much CAPE to support a thunderstorm within that area. If we look at the dew points, these are also going to be rather high. You're looking at about 68 to 70 degree dew points over northern West Virginia, eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania for this afternoon. And also, one of the reasons why this is happening, and I think this is rather interesting, is this upper level trough, which is digging into the Ohio Valley. We have this system right here by tonight. So this is as of tonight on the upper air map. One of the reasons this is going to be holding up is because of this high pressure right here. And what you need to pay attention to is this high pressure to the east, this low pressure in Ohio, which is the severe weather system. And then we have another one, which is dipping down from northwestern Canada, and that'll be sliding on to the east. If we move this on one frame, what you can see is that that low pressure, which was in western Canada, is now into Manitoba, about to cross into Ontario. And then you have this one being pulled to the north because this high pressure is continuing to strengthen. So what happens is that this area of strong low pressure, as it slides to the east, is attracting this also very strong low pressure to the north again. So they're going to kind of switch around and eventually merge. This would be by Friday, and then if we look at by Sunday, you can see both of these systems merge. The high pressure still up there to the north. It really hasn't moved all that much. That's why this storm is kind of stalling out, because the entire northern Atlantic is blocked off from high pressure systems in that area. So it's completely blocked off. You can barely get any storms across there. We have that low pressure, which is now dominating the northeast and eastern Canada with colder temperatures, as well as a bit more of an active pattern in terms of the rainfall. So it's an interesting setup, to say the least. And this is a colder than normal setup as well. I think by October we'll probably go back into a warmer setup. And then I was discussing this with a few of the people on the chat board in the comment section. If you leave a comment down below, I'll almost always respond to you guys if you have a question. But yeah, I think probably into November we're gonna go back into another colder spell, especially late November and December. Based on what I'm seeing, based off this, usually you'll see about a 4-week span where you're in one pattern, and then it'll be pretty much the complete opposite the next 4 to 6 week span, especially in the fall and winter. You normally do not see one winter where it's completely warm the entire time or completely cold the entire time. A good example of that would be last winter in the Great Lakes and the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, where it was much colder into February and early March. That's a 6-week time frame. Late March and April, much warmer. And if you looked at January and December, they were also rather warm. So you're gonna either start off the winter cold and then become warm, or you'll probably start the winter warm and then become cold. You can only really have one of two. There's very rare scenarios where you'll get the entire winter as one or the other. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Go answer the poll, which is up on my channel. And again, that is gonna wrap it up. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.